Several countries around the world are at risk of earthquakes due to their location along tectonic plate boundaries. While seismic activity can strike anywhere in the world, these countries face a disproportionate number of earthquakes. Let's discuss the 10 countries which are at risk of earthquakes. 10th, Turkey. Turkey is at risk of earthquakes due to its location along the boundary of the Eurasian and African tectonic plates. These plates interact along several fault lines, including the North Anatolian Fault and the East Anatolian Fault, leading to significant seismic activity. The collision and movement of these plates result in the release of energy, causing earthquakes. Additionally, Turkey has a long history of earthquakes, and its cities are often built near these fault lines, further increasing the risk of seismic events. Earthquake preparedness and monitoring are essential in Turkey to mitigate the impact of these natural disasters. 9th, Iran. Iran is at risk of earthquakes primarily because it sits at the convergence of several major tectonic plates, including the Arabian Plate, Eurasian Plate, and the Indian Plate. These plates interact along various fault lines, including the Zagros and Alborz fault systems, causing significant seismic activity. The movement and collision of these tectonic plates lead to the buildup of stress and the release of energy in the form of earthquakes. Iran is one of the most seismically active regions in the world, and it has a long history of devastating earthquakes. The country's geological setting, along with its extensive urban development and population centers near fault lines, increases the vulnerability to earthquake hazards. Earthquake preparedness, building construction standards, and monitoring systems are critical in Iran to mitigate the impact of these frequent seismic events. 8th, Pakistan. Pakistan, like Iran and Turkey, is prone to earthquakes due to its location near the convergence of tectonic plates. Specifically, it is situated at the boundary of the Indian Plate and the Eurasian Plate. The ongoing collision between these plates results in the buildup of stress along fault lines, such as the main mantle thrust and the Chemin Fault, leading to frequent seismic activity. Pakistan is susceptible to earthquakes because of its geological setting, and it has experienced several significant earthquakes throughout its history. The country's topography, urbanization, and infrastructure development near fault zones also contribute to its vulnerability to earthquake hazards. It is crucial for Pakistan to have effective earthquake preparedness, building codes, and monitoring systems in place to reduce the impact of these natural disasters and protect its population. 7th, Nepal. Nepal is susceptible to earthquakes primarily because it is situated along the boundary of two major tectonic plates, the Indian Plate and the Eurasian Plate. The collision and convergence of these plates have led to the uplift of the Himalayan mountain range and the formation of numerous active fault lines, including the main Himalayan thrust fault. This tectonic interaction results in the accumulation of stress along these fault lines, which is periodically released in the form of earthquakes. Nepal is known for its seismic activity, and it has a history of significant earthquakes, including the devastating 2015 Gorkha earthquake. The country's geography, with its high mountains and steep terrain, further complicates earthquake hazards. Nepal's vulnerability to earthquakes underscores the importance of earthquake preparedness, building codes, and monitoring systems to protect its population and infrastructure from the potentially catastrophic effects of seismic events. 6th, China. China is at risk of earthquakes due to its vast size and diverse geological features. Several factors contribute to its seismic activity. China spans multiple tectonic plate boundaries, including the boundary between the Eurasian Plate and the Indian Plate in the Himalayan region, the Eurasian Plate and the Philippine Sea Plate in eastern China, and the Eurasian Plate and the Yangtze Plate in the central region. The interactions along these plate boundaries result in seismic activity. China has several major fault systems, such as the Longminshan Fault in Sichuan and the Haiyuan Fault in Qinghai, which are prone to earthquakes. Subduction zones, where one tectonic plate is pushed beneath another, are present in regions like Taiwan and the South China Sea, leading to the potential for powerful earthquakes. China has a history of significant earthquakes, including the 2008 Sichuan earthquake and the 1976 Tangshan earthquake, which caused extensive damage and loss of life. China's rapid urbanization has led to the construction of many buildings and infrastructure in earthquake-prone areas, increasing the potential impact of seismic events. Given these factors, China has implemented earthquake preparedness measures, building codes, and monitoring systems to mitigate the risks associated with earthquakes. However, the country remains at risk due to its complex geological setting. 5th, Japan. Japan is at a high risk of earthquakes due to its unique geological and tectonic setting. Several factors contribute to Japan's vulnerability to seismic activity. Japan is located at the convergence of four major tectonic plates: the Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and the North American Plate. The interactions and subduction of these plates create intense tectonic activity, resulting in frequent earthquakes. The subduction of the Pacific Plate beneath the North American Plate along the Japan Trench in the Pacific Ocean and the subduction of the Philippine Sea Plate beneath the Eurasian Plate along the Nankai Trough to the south of Japan are responsible for some of the largest and most powerful earthquakes and tsunamis in the world. Japan is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region known for its high seismic and volcanic activity. This makes Japan particularly susceptible to both earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Japan has a densely populated urban landscape with many cities situated near active fault lines, making it important to have strict building codes and earthquake-resistant infrastructure. Due to these factors, Japan has a long history of earthquakes, and the country is well prepared with advanced earthquake early warning systems, strict building standards, and disaster preparedness measures to minimize the impact of seismic events. However, the ongoing seismic activity in Japan means that earthquake readiness and monitoring remain crucial. 4th, Philippines. The Philippines is at significant risk of earthquakes due to its location in a seismically active region known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. This region is characterized by the convergence of several major tectonic plates, including the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and the Pacific Plate. The interaction between these plates results in intense geological activity, leading to frequent seismic events. One of the most notable seismic features in the Philippines is the Philippine Trench, where the Philippine Sea Plate is subducting beneath the Eurasian Plate. This subduction process generates immense pressure and stress along fault lines, making the country prone to both shallow and deep-seated earthquakes. The Philippines is composed of numerous islands, and its densely populated urban areas are often situated near active fault lines, increasing the potential for damage and casualties during earthquakes. To mitigate the risks associated with seismic activity, the Philippines has implemented earthquake preparedness measures, building codes, and monitoring systems, recognizing the importance of being prepared for this natural hazard. 3rd, Indonesia. Indonesia is exceptionally vulnerable to earthquakes due to its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region renowned for its intense geological activity. Situated at the converging boundaries of multiple tectonic plates, including the Indo-Australian Plate, the Pacific Plate, and the Eurasian Plate, Indonesia experiences a high degree of seismic activity. The subduction zones, such as the Sunda megathrust, where the Indo-Australian Plate sinks beneath the Eurasian Plate, create significant tectonic stress and the potential for massive earthquakes and tsunamis. Indonesia's volcanic terrain further compounds the risk, as volcanic eruptions can trigger seismic events. Its vast archipelago and dense population near fault lines make it particularly susceptible to earthquake-related disasters. Indonesia has made efforts to enhance earthquake preparedness, enact stringent building codes, and establish monitoring systems to safeguard its population. Nonetheless, the persistent seismic threats underscore the necessity for ongoing vigilance and disaster resilience measures. 2nd, Ecuador. Ecuador is situated in a seismically active region, making it highly susceptible to earthquakes. Its location along the boundary of the Nazca Plate and the South American Plate creates intense tectonic activity. The Nazca Plate is subducting beneath the South American Plate along the Peru-Chile Trench and the Ecuador-Colombia Trench. This subduction process generates significant geological stress, resulting in frequent seismic events, including large earthquakes. Ecuador's topography and geological characteristics further amplify its earthquake risk. The country is marked by the towering Andes Mountains, which are the result of tectonic plate interactions. These mountains are riddled with fault lines, and many urban areas are located near these geological fault zones, putting both people and infrastructure at risk during seismic events. To address the earthquake hazard, Ecuador has implemented earthquake preparedness measures, building codes, and monitoring systems. However, the ongoing seismic activity in the region necessitates continued vigilance and investment in disaster resilience to protect its population from the impact of earthquakes. First, Chile. Chile is at a substantial risk of earthquakes due to its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region known for its intense seismic activity. The country lies on the boundary between the South American Plate and the Nazca Plate, where the Nazca Plate is subducting beneath the South American Plate along the Peru-Chile Trench. This subduction process generates immense geological stress, making Chile prone to powerful megathrust earthquakes. Chile has a long history of significant earthquakes, including the infamous 1960 Valdivia earthquake, the strongest ever recorded, and the 2010 Mal earthquake. These events have highlighted the country's vulnerability to seismic hazards. Moreover, Chile's unique geography, with the towering Andes Mountains and the Pacific Ocean along its entire western coast, further complicates the seismic risk. To mitigate the impact of earthquakes, Chile has invested heavily in earthquake preparedness and response measures. The country has strict building codes, robust monitoring systems, and an early warning system in place to protect its population and infrastructure. Nonetheless, Chile remains at risk, emphasizing the continued importance of earthquake readiness and resilience efforts.